Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another MPJ rock album reviews, where we are reviewing the latest in the rock album reviews. Welcome to my amazing crew, Simon, William, and welcome back again, Trish.
Morning.
Good morning.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. So we're missing Ian today. He's off on a sunny cruise somewhere. Hey, we have the power of four today. The power of four. Dun dun dun. And hey, thanks for joining us today on our show. What do we got today? Well, usual stuff. The latest albums in the world of rock, thrown together in a maelstrom of the battle of the bands, the battle of the albums. And who are we excitedly reviewing today? Well, it's the battle of the Powermetals today, in the form of Xandria and dun 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 Silver Bullet. Oh, it's like living in a world of fantasy, isn't it? The world of musical fantasy. So, who have we got, first of all? So, how we're going to do this is we're going to review them and then match them, which album we would prefer to buy, and then we're going to give them a vote out of 5 in terms of how much we enjoyed it. Not how commercial they are, but literally, purely, unadulterated enjoyment, personal enjoyment. So, right, okay, here we go. Who is first up? So, in the blue corner, Xandria, and their album, The Wonder Awaited. So who the heck are these guys? Well, these guys are a German symphonic power metal band founded by Marco Hubaum in 1994. So been around a while. Originally a project, Hubaum later restarted the project as a band in 1999 and has gone through various lineup changes. The German vocalist Lisa Mudelhav joined for the debut album, co-writing both music and lyrics for the band until her departure in 2008. Mudelhav reunited briefly with the band in 2010 following the departure of the band's second vocalist, Kerstin Bischoff, but left again shortly after. Manuela Kroller joined the band as a new vocalist in 2010. That is Xandria and The Wonder Awaited. But was it really a wonder? And was it really, well, it was obviously waiting for us, but really, was it a wonder? Or was it a disappointment? Let's go and find out, shall we, William? Let's start with you, shall we, young man? Xandria. Now, we almost nearly went to watch Xandria, didn't we? Because they were touring with, well, one night only in London, with the wonderful Visions of Atlantis, and they were going to be on that stage. We didn't go in the end, but you know, I'm just gobsmacked.
If only we did.
If only we did. And do you now regret having listened to this album? Do you regret?
I really do. I did feel a lot of, in just the way the vocalist sang. I feel there was quite a lot of similarity in the same kind of singing they do with Xandria and Vision Atlantis. I felt myself while I was listening, just sort of having those callbacks in sort of the way she sung, the type of voice she sings, and the kind of lyricism. But this album was a wonderful experience. I really have a soft spot for the power metal symphonic albums that have the really, really long song at the beginning, but also a really, 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 really long song at the end as well. So really, for me, I don't really mind long songs. I think they're quite cool, because, you know, they can explore so many different sounds within one song. It evolves and changes. This is a very cool album. And the way they, again, as one of my favourite things, merge the clean vocals and aggressive, dirty vocals to, you know, enhance the sound of the album as a whole. A few of the ones do that. The tracks like, Reborn, Ghosts, both very good songs. This is I was pleasantly surprised with this album, but it did. I did find myself thinking a lot of Vision of Atlantis, and kind of wish I'd listened to that, because just how much I adore that album. But it suffers from a bit of sameness by virtue of the kind of music it is. Like, a lot of symphonic albums end up sounding very samey as they go through. But for me, it's one of those things where I don't mind if it does that sound, if it does that sound really well as it goes on. And for me, it did. Very, very pleasant experience, this one.
Ooh, okay. Simon, another Visions of Atlantis fan, as we all are. Did you find similar comparisons here, or and a similar level of enjoyment?
Oh yeah, I mean for me this is it's very reminiscent of old school Nightwish, which I used to love and adore. That sort of gothic metal. It's not quite that as far as they are, but this is still like this hauntingly beautiful symphonic metal. And as Will said, I love the blend of the powerful tones and the growling vocals. They don't lean too heavily on the keyboard either, which a lot of symphonic metal does. So the guitars and drums really get to shine, especially in the ballad "Your Stories I'll Remember." And there's such a mix of musical styles throughout the album, with the violins and cellos, and then they've got that backing choir and the wonders still awaiting. Just absolutely beautiful song. I love this album. I really can't wait to hear more from Xandria. I wish I'd been able to go see them live. I wish we'd known about them then. So would have been even more reason to go see Visions of Atlantis. But yeah.
So Trish, then, did Xandria lift you to the heights of the Vision of Atlantis as well as our erstwhile colleagues?
Oh, boys. I'm really sorry. This symphonic metal album is catchy, but it's just a bit too long for my liking to keep me engaged. So making it to the end was a bit of a slog. But for most of the album, it is pretty decent. The lead singer's vocals are charismatic and powerful. A few songs could have done with a minute or two being shaved off. Therefore, I would have enjoyed it more and listened again. I feel it's more aimed at their fan base, which will love it, rather than winning over new listeners.
Ooh, this is a bit of a roller coaster. Will my view take it up to the more heights, or keep it down there with in the Trish land? Guys, come on. I mean, you're comparing this to Visions of Atlantis. There's a lot to like about this album, and for me personally, there's a lot wrong with this album when you do compare it with the Visions of Atlantis, which is undeniably you cannot, particularly in our world, particularly as it won album of the year, you really cannot compare it. And as I say, there's a lot to like about it, but there's a lot to hate about it. I hate the Growlo. I hate it. Why Visions of Atlantis? Why Visions of Atlantis worked was because his voice, the male vocalist, beautifully dovetailed her vocals brilliantly. It counterbalanced it. It was so sweet. It was so purely, beautifully done that it was absolutely seamless. I appreciate why they put the Satan's voice in there, because obviously they wanted to counterbalance her amazing voice. And don't get me wrong, she's up there. Her vocals were sublime. I mean, and enchanting and absolutely beautiful. But as soon as the demon voice started to growl into it, hated it. I mean, it just ruined it for me. Just absolutely ruined. I understand why they were trying to do it. I understand William's comments about that counterbalance, but for me, it was just like, I really don't want to listen to it, and it for me, it kind of ruined the vibe. It didn't enhance it. It just kind of ruined it a little bit for me, which was an absolute shame. And the other thing that you talked about the length of the album, and I think that's a weakness for this album, because and going back to Trish's comment, that I think it would appeal to their fan base 100%. William is a typified power metal aficionado, so I get that. I kind of get where he's coming from, but the beauty about the Vision of Atlantis is I think it straddled both worlds. It also had that commercial vibe to it in terms of commerciality, in terms of not going so far into that world where it kept you, because it was a story. It was singular stories in the world of a pirate, but it was so beautifully done. And this in comparison was not. It was way too long. It was way too long. I mean, it was. And therefore, however, second listen, I did appreciate it a little bit more, because her voice, I mean, and let's look at the positivities here. You're absolutely right. Her voice was fantastic. The musicality, the musical arrangement in this album was absolutely dynamite. But there was just too many things wrong for me not to thoroughly enjoy it as much as I would have enjoyed the Paris. And unfortunately, you have to compare, because there was a lot of similarities in its some of its construct, but it was a bit too short for me from that way. So yeah, sorry about that. That was quite an in-depth analysis, really, from me. But it actually you need to compare it. So and because there are similarities there. But anyway, don't get me wrong. It wasn't a bad album. It was pretty damn solid, but not to the heights, I don't think, of Visions for certain. So right, and if I'd watched them live and they were doing that growler, I think I'd have just gone to the toilet or something. But until he's finished, they say, "I would have gone, boo, go away, Satan! We don't want you singing on our stage." There we are. Anyway, but how are they going to compare? Because today, it's not just about comparing. It's not about comparing. Well, you naturally can about Visions of Atlantis, but you are up against Silver Bullet and their album Shadowfall. Now, who are Silver Bullet? Well, Silver Bullet, Finnish, not Swedish. We're moving up in Scandinavia. We don't say Finland very often, but there we go. Historically, been a country that produces a vast number of metal bands with many power metal greats, legends to credit, such as Santana, Arctica, Stratovarius, to say the least. While new bands come and go, few have gained much traction for their pure power metal style, in the same way as Silver Bullet. Led by ex-Taurus bassist Hannes Homer, the band has donned a loose horror theme to their sound, with their first release exclusively containing songs about horror movies, while their sophomore release, Moon Cult, being a concept story about witchcraft and witch burnings. Now, the new vocalist Bruno Profresi at the mic, and after a long COVID-related delay, comes Shadowfall. Now, that's a bit of an intro, isn't it? Right, okay, Simon, let's start with you then. In the world of power metal, had you heard of Silver Bullet?
No, can't say I had, but there's plenty of bands out there. So.
No, there is a few, isn't there? Just a few.
Just a few. Yeah, no, Silver Bullet is a fantastic power metal album. Absolutely loved it. It's this sort of European style of power metal, and it's just wonderful. I love the vocals, love the guitars, love the drums. I like, conversely, compared to obviously Xandria's opening with a 7-minute opening epic, they have a 2-minute little intro overture, which yeah, sometimes hit or miss on, and then they end with a 7-minute song with 13 nails. But yeah, I mean, I love so many tracks on here, like Soul Reaver and things like that, and it's just it's just a really pleasant power metal album for me. I really enjoyed it, and I'm kind of gutted that we hadn't listened to this. Obviously, it just came out, but they toured and they did one day in the UK, which was last month. I missed it by a week or something. Which, if I'd known, I'd love to have gone to see them. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this album.
Young Trish, now was this more to your taste, your liking in the world of power metal?
You're nodding your head. That might surprise you. Okay, so the beginning of the opening track, Overture to Armageddon, the score had a cinematic sound, and it reminded me of Carl Orff's Carmina Burana o Fortuna, aka the Old Spice advert.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Love it.
The album immediately grabs you with its musicianship. The mix is well balanced, with a mix of sounds to me like Beast in Black. The final track, 13 Nails, got me moving whilst listening. And you should always leave your listeners wanting more with the final song in an album. All in all, this is a good listen and worth a couple more to appreciate it.
Ooh, so, William, did the album look good? Did it sound good? But now, did it smell good?
I mean, I've got a bit of a cold right now, so I can't really smell too well, so I'm afraid I'm not the best judge for this. I mean, I'm in, shockingly, a very similar camp to Silent of this. It was just a good European Scandinavian metal band. My only weird gripe with it it's really weird. It's probably just a me thing. It came to fruition mostly in the ones that are full, the ones too full. You know, Patrick Stump, lead singer of Fall Out Boy. When he does the really high pitched bits in it, all I can hear is him. So it's like I was listening to a weird amalgamation. It's probably just me, but it's the way he does the really high pitched bits sound like his singing.
And do you like that?
To my eyes, it was weird.
Do you like the
But it was good.
Do you like the Fall Out Boy singer then?
Our Fall Out Boy are fantastic.
Oh well, you're gonna.
I saw him last year.
Oh,
Hannah
did you?
Megator. It was
well, their new album's out next month, and it's on your stage, mate. So look forward to that.
How convenient!
I know, right?
Tune in next month and find out.
What a bit of a segue and a pitch for next month's album reviews. But there we go.
No, it was really good. Shockingly for me, one of the tracks I really liked was "Then Come Oblivion," the one like midway through down where it mellows out, goes more calm, and then kicks back in with Night Hunter in the next one. Normally, I'm more in the camp of full on all the time, just keep on going, keep up the speed. But it was quite nice having them do that. It was really beautifully done. Good album, solid metal, fun.
Yeah, it's a bit of a cracker of a power metal album, isn't it? I mean, it's not. There are a few things wrong with it, but I mean, the production, the singing, his voice is very, very good. I agree with you that there's some nice variety to his tone, musicality. I think my only gripe is there. As I say with power metal, I think you've got to go on a journey, and it's got to be the holy trinity of lyricism, musicality, and vocals. And whilst his vocals were very good, I don't think it was to the great heights of other power metal bands that we've heard, but it was still pretty darn solid. And it was also really nice musically as well. I could have done with a little bit more variety. It took a couple of listens. I think that it definitely was a bit more of a grower, but it was a solidly good power metal album. There wasn't a huge amount, and I found this theme right through all the albums I reviewed, apart from one where I find I really, really like an album without actually loving it, and there was a lot of bands and a lot of albums this month where that hovered around there, and this was similar. As I say, thoroughly enjoyable, good solid power metal album, but without me wanting to go. Yeah, I'd listen more to it, but without me desperately wanting to go back and go, I need another listen to that. I need another listen to that. Like when we did Visions of Atlantis, we just couldn't stop listening to it. Probably about 10 times on the trot. So good, solid, really, really good. But with good power metal album. So, I think this could be a close one. I think this could be a close one, and don't forget, if it's 2-2, I get the deciding vote. I cast that deciding vote. Right, but there's more at stake than just who album would we buy between Shadowfall and The Wonder Waiting. It's also, will any of these bands make it to our top albums of the year, but more importantly, will they get to our Hall of Fame? Now, there's only 4 of us today, so they need a total of 16 to get onto our Hall of Fame, so they need an average of 4. So, right, without further ado then, ladies and gentlemen, let's find out, shall we, whether Xandria or Silver Bullet will attain those glorious heights. So, William, let's start with you then. Xandria.
It's a solid 4.5.
Ooh. Shadowfall.
A solid 4.
Ooh, starting off in fine fettle here. Simon, Xandria.
I think Will's been checking my scoreboard. 4.5.
Ooh.
We're just really in sync, Simon.
Oh, look at you. Oh, isn't it lovely?
He's inside my head.
Power Metal Heaven and Silver Bullet.
Yeah, let's go for a cheeky 4.
Cheeky 4. Okay. Right.
Mr. Matthews, he's copying my answers.
I know, isn't he? Isn't he? Don't worry,
Don't worry, I won't be.
Oh, no. Trish, Xandria.
2.5.
2.5. And Shadowfall.
3.5.
3.5. Okay. Have you been copying my scores, Trish, by any chance? Xandria 2.5 for me as well, and Shadowfall though did get a 4. So it falls down to me to decide which album we're going to buy, and obviously without any doubt it's going to be Shadowfall. On this score, but let's tally up the scores. We've got 5, 9, and 5, 14 for Xandria, which is pretty damn fine with the 4 votes. That's pretty damn good. I think that's going to get somewhere close to top 50 for sure. And Shadowfall though, 12, 15 and a half. 15 and a half. Oh, what away from half a point away from the Hall of Fame. Oh, but it's certainly going to be up there. It's certainly going to be in our top 50 of our all-time albums, and we're up into coming up to the 190s now. We're nearly up to 200 album reviews, and certainly going to be in our top 10 so far for the year as well. So pretty solid all round. Congratulations to Silver Bullet, and well done to both bands. Good albums, pretty solid albums from our perspective. So pretty good. So anyway, right. Well, thank you very much for joining today's show or this episode of New Album Reviews, and keep rocking out there. Thanks to my crew, Simon, William and Trish. Goodbye everybody, and keep on rocking, and look after yourselves. Goodbye.